Hello everyone, my name is Wendy and I'm here to present on my senior thesis research topic, which is on measuring firm innovation and its relationship with IPO and M&A activities. The reason I got interested in this topic was because I've always been very passionate about technology and innovation. As a finance major myself, I've always wondered how firms tackle the challenges that come with IPO and M&A events. Those events tend to bring a lot of changes to a firm, especially to a firm's innovation, because innovation is really something that's crucial to a firm's long-term performance. Therefore, I've always wanted to know whether firms are able to maintain their innovative capacity once they go through such events. So just as some background, innovation, according to the US Department of Commerce, is something that has to satisfy two criteria. First, it has to be a novel product or service, and then it has to be able to generate financial returns for the firm. And when we talk about innovation, there are primarily three types. There is product innovation when firms release a new product, process innovation when firms introduce a new process for management, and business model innovation, such as when Amazon introducing e-commerce for customers. So when analyzing innovation, I think it's important to consider all the types of innovation out there rather than just focus on one aspect. Before conducting my research, I did some literature review on my topic. I found that in previous research, scholars have primarily been using patent-based metrics as measurement for innovation. For example, the quantity of innovation is measured by the number of patents a firm generates, and the quality of innovation is measured by the number of times a patent gets cited by other patents. And according to findings in previous literature, the quality of innovation tends to decrease following IPO and M&A activities. But I found that in previous literature, there is some lack of content validity in innovation measurement, because I think patenting is really only one form of innovation. But innovation can also come from areas such as product introductions and scientific publications. When firms introduce a new product or publish a new paper, they might not necessarily patent this technology, even though they should still be considered innovation. In addition, I think there's some lack of criterion validity in innovation measurement. I think the number of citations might be a crude proxy for innovation quality because a higher number of citations does not necessarily mean that this innovation is really novel. So we might need to conduct a more detailed examination of actual innovative content in order to analyze whether this is an innovation that's novel or not. So my research question consists of three parts. I will first address the lack of content and criterion validity in innovation measurement by examining a variety of innovation metrics. In addition to patents, I will also be looking at new product introductions and scientific publications. And in the meantime, I want to examine the potential effects of industry characteristics on changes in innovation performance around IPO and M&A. I also want to identify potential reasons behind changes in innovation performance around these events, and I will primarily focus on the mobility of innovators who are the actual employees of the firms that are generating those innovations. My datasets consist of two pillars. The first pillar is on firm-level innovation output, including patents, product introductions, and scientific publications. And I also downloaded data for firm-level strategic and financial information. In terms of my methodology, I ran a series of regression analysis on the relationship between innovation performance and IPO or M&A status. For my dependent variables, I included innovation metrics based on patents, product introductions, as well as scientific publications. For scientific publications, in addition to the traditional metrics such as article count and citation count, I also included collaborator count, which is the number of collaborators a firm gets to work with, and also the abstract novelty score, which is calculated based on the average age of non-stop words in the abstract of each article. And this kind of novelty score really looks at the specific content of the innovation in order to analyze whether this is novel or not. Then I analyzed how industry characteristics relate to changes in innovation performance around IPO and M&A events. And I will specifically look at sales concentration, market turbulence, which is the instability of the market share of the top 5 firms in each industry over time, as well as geographic concentration. And then I look at how innovator mobility around IPO and M&A events will potentially explain the changes in innovation performance on the firm level as a whole. I classify innovators into stayers, leavers, or newcomers with respect to the IPO or M&A event. And now I will discuss my results. I included a lot of tables here, but I will focus on my primary findings. So I first conducted analysis on the change in patent-based metrics around IPO and M&A. And in both IPO and M&A cases, I found that innovation in post-event years is characterized by higher quantity of patents produced, but lower quality as measured by the average number of citations. And this is consistent with the findings from previous literature. I also did analysis on the change in product-based metrics around IPO and M&A. My analysis for the IPO case is actually not very robust enough because I did not have enough product introductions data for pre-IPO years. So I primarily did the analysis for the M&A case. I analyzed both total product introductions as well as breakthrough product introductions. And breakthrough means when a firm introduces a new product to a new category that the firm has never been in before. I found that total innovation in post-M&A years tends to be higher, but breakthrough or novel innovation tends to be lower compared to pre-M&A years. And then I analyzed the change in innovation metrics based on scientific publications data. Similar to the analysis based on patents, I found that innovation quantity as measured by the number of publications tends to be higher after IPOs. And this might be due to the increase in research collaborators in post-IPO years, because as we can see on the table on the right, the number of collaborators the firm gets to work with tends to be higher after IPOs. However, my analysis of innovation quality as measured by the average number of citations does not really generate significant results. So in order to better examine innovation quality, I calculated the abstract novelty score for each paper, which, as I discussed before, is based on text mining of the abstract of each article. And I found that innovation quality tends to decrease following the IPO event. And for the M&A case, I found that results for innovation quantity are not very significant, but the coefficient values do point to higher publication count in post-M&A years. So similar to the IPO case, I think this might be due to the fact that firms tend to access more research collaborators post-M&A. However, contrary to my previous findings on innovation quality for the IPO case, I found that the coefficient values for the average citation count actually point to higher quality of innovation post-M&A. But in my analysis of firm-level novelty score, I found that innovation quality tends to decrease in post-M&A years. So in order to potentially explain why there is those changes in innovation performance around IPO and M&A, I analyzed the mobility of innovators in order to figure out if this is the case. So as we can see on the charts, I compared the innovation performance of stayers versus leavers, as well as stayers versus newcomers for the IPO and M&A cases. So I found that stayers tend to produce significantly higher number of publications than leavers in pre-IPO years, and significantly higher number of publications than newcomers in post-IPO years. However, in terms of innovation quality as measured by the number of citations and the abstract novelty score, I did not find significant differences among stayers, leavers, and newcomers. For the M&A case, I also found that stayers tend to produce more publications than leavers and newcomers. But for the quality of innovation, I find a little bit of contradictory results. because if we see the tables that illustrate stayers versus leavers in pre-M&A years in terms of the log citation count and the abstract novelty score, the differences are kind of contradictory. So judging from those results per se, it would be hard to explain why there is an observed decline in the quality of innovation post-IPO and M&A events. But since stayers tend to produce more publications than newcomers and leavers, we might be able to say that a possible reason for the total increase in publication count on the firm level after IPO and M&A might be due to the fact that that most stayers tend to produce more innovations. So to conclude, after examining a variety of innovation metrics, my results generally show that innovation quantity increases, but the quality of innovation decreases following IPO and M&A events. These findings are in general consistent with previous literature, but I was able to verify this result from a variety of metrics, including, for example, the abstract novelty score. In terms of industry characteristics, I found that the results tend to vary with specific cases, but in general, higher sales concentration and geographic concentration tend to relate to lower innovation quantity in post-event years than in pre-event years. I think this might be due to the possibility that when a market is more concentrated, the firms tend to access more resources, and the competition in the industry is relatively low. So because of lower competition and more access to collaborators, the firms might not really have that much incentive to produce more innovations. However, higher sales concentration and geographic concentration generally relate to higher innovation quality in post-event years than in pre-event years. And I think this might be due to the possibility that the firms might be realizing that there's a potential to actually create value from generating really novel innovations. So overall, firms need to be mindful of the potential loss in innovation quality after IPO and M&A events. Even though our results do not generally show a potential explanation in terms of why there's a decline in the quality of innovation after these events, but it's still possible that the mobility of innovators might cause a firm to experience some loss in their talent base after they go through these strategic activities. Another reason might be due to the short-termism of firm experiences, especially after IPO events, because after firms go public, they will be subject to more shareholder pressure to increase short-term earnings at the expense of long-term performance. So firms may want to produce more and more innovations, but they might not be really paying attention to the quality of innovation. So thank you so much for watching this video. This concludes my presentation. And I also want to thank all the faculty members and my friends who have helped me throughout the process of doing this research, especially my faculty advisor, Professor Ling Wu from Wharton's OIDD department. Thank you all.